This is a Celtic State of Mind. I'm Paul John Dykes, and tonight I'm joined by Tommy Sheridan, where we'll be talking to actor and director David HAYMAN. David, welcome to Barra's Art and Design. There is a lot I want to ask you about your incredible career, but I want to start off with Spirit Aid.
Good man.
You know what, I was just saying to Tommy there, it really brings it into view right now with the way the world's going. The world's up in flames, and the people who have got no skin in the game are the ones who are suffering, the kids. And you decided that you were going to set something up, and you were actually going to not just be passionate about it, but actually get it done. Talk us through that. What was the final straw that broke the camel's back for you, and you thought, I'm going to take action here?
I'm lucky, guys. I was born of a mother who was an angel barely disguised as a human being. Mother Mary. She saw the good in everybody, looked after everybody. Her language was a language of love. She didn't have any other language. She was a scrubber. She cleaned other people's houses most of her life, and she ended up as a ward clerkess the latter years of her life. But when you've got a role model like that, who just expresses love for everybody and anybody, no matter who you are or what you've done or what colour or what religion you are or something, you can't be an arsehole. So I've always been minded to help other people, but it was just 24 years ago. It was a parliament. He said, "Doc, you're always going on about the state of the world. Why don't you create a charity?" And I thought, "Aye, okay, why not?" So a bunch of pals and I just got together. I think the first thing I set up was the Christmas appeal. And I remember walking in, I was brought up in Drumchapel. I remember walking in, Drumchapel was one of the first places we went to deliver toys. Walked into this woman's house, bare floorboards, hardly a stick of furniture. She's in her gunny at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. She had 3 wains. And when she saw us coming and she saw the parcels we brought for the kids, she laid on my shoulder and burst into tears and said, "Thank God you came, son. Otherwise we would have had a Christmas." I'm looking over her shoulder and I'm seeing her 3 wains ripping over the parcels going, yeah, we've got this. That changes your life, yeah. The first overseas trip I took, I didn't want it just to be a Scottish-based charity. I wanted it to be worldwide, because we've got a big heart as a people. Mm-hmm. And so just shortly after we set it up, they brought down the Twin Towers, and we and the Americans bombed the hell out of Afghanistan. Afghanistan is one of the poorest countries in the world. We reduced that country. I mean, we destroyed its roads, its bridges, its schools, its mosques, its vineyards, its farmlands, reduced it to rubble. So I went out and I was travelling around the mountain villages in the Hindu Kush, and everywhere I went, there were dozens and dozens of kids would run out the house, you'd come and say, "God, a white man, a white man." And they were all coughing. And I said to my teenage interpreter, I said, "What are they saying?" They coughed and they died. I said, "When was the last time a doctor?" "Doctor, nay." They'd never seen a doctor. So I came back here, I managed to raise 10 grand. I went back to Afghanistan and I put together a convoy. I begged or borrowed vehicles. I got together about 15 doctors who were paid $15 a day. I got about 15 nurses that were paid $10 a day. Bought thousands of dollars worth of medicines and drove into the Hindu Kush. And started to look after the kids and give them medicines. We've been working there. Eventually that ended up, I created the first 2 mobile clinics in Central Asia that covered 40 isolated villages and prisons and women's groups in the Hindu Kush Mountains in northern Afghanistan. Each vehicle had a doctor, a nurse, a pharmacist, and we had 1 dentist between the 2 of them. Mm-hmm. And those mobile clinics ran for, until the Taliban took over a few years ago, and then they had to take them off the road. I still have a small school for 200 kids, male and female, under the noses of the Taliban. And the hypocrisy is, the Taliban will not allow women to be educated or go to work or have a life or express themselves or even sing a song in their house. They're allowing their daughters to come to our school to be educated, right?
I mean, see, Tommy and I talk about this all the time, David, but you acted. You actually,
Yep.
It's inspirational.
Yep.
But to hear even the stories closer to home with the wee kids opening their Christmas presents, what a sense of fulfilment that must give you. And we watch Celtic, of course, we all do. And we know about the plight of the Palestinians. And you've done work with Palestine as well, haven't you? And, the Green Brigade do that. And they do it in such a way that they're not looking for praise, they're just looking for help so that they can go and assist these people.
Well, I'll tell you a story. I've been supporting. My best pal, Jerry O'Hare, is a senior oncology nurse at the Beatson, and he's been working in Palestine and Gaza for the last 15 years, training nurses in oncology treatments. Mm-hmm. So we've supported that. We've subsidised and bringing them to Scotland to get extracurricular training for 2 or 3 weeks in Glasgow hospitals. They get certificated. We've paid for their textbooks. We've paid for their accommodation and travel within the Middle East to go to Lebanon for extra training. Probably we've helped train about 30 of them. Half of them we haven't heard from. The other half we know are dead. We support a refugee camp, the Aida camp. Mm-hmm. And the first time I went to Aida camp, we were supporting the Laji Centre, which is committed to teaching the young people non-violent demonstration and resistance. Of course, I walk into the Laji Centre, and there's a big Green Brigade, big sign on the wall, and I thought, yeah, beauty. They've been here, they got here before me.
It's brilliant, the work that they do.
Oh, yes, no, it's fantastic.
It was recently...
I've got so much respect for the Green Brigade. Political and moral respect.
Mm-hmm. I mean, even last night, horrible result, but they're flying the flags of Palestine in Dortmund.
And Lebanon.
And Lebanon.
There was a Lebanese flag.
It made me proud, David, because we can't avoid talking about it. We should talk about it. No, we need to, because it would be cowardly.
Because they fly Israeli flags.
It would be cowardly. No, the point I'm making is, David, we'll have to discuss the result, even though we're recording this on a Wednesday, the show goes out on a Friday. We need to give our feedback about what happened. But that's the point I'm making. I'm sitting there watching the game with my daughter last night, and my heart's broken because we've been embarrassed. But what wasn't embarrassing was the Celtic fans waving Palestine flags, Lebanese flags, and showing that regardless of the bullshit from the mainstream media that would have you believe that everybody else is the baddie and Israel's the goodie, most people with half a brain cell know that Israel is the biggest aggressor in that whole region. And from my point of view, I'm just proud that
supported and backed by us.
Exactly.
The United Kingdom.
Exactly, Dave. It makes, and by the way, your man Starmer, I'm sorry to make it political, Paul John. You mean he'd be having me on the show, Dave. He always becomes a bit political. But the man Starmer goes on the box last night to tell us that we're backing Israel. Well, he never asked me, David. I don't know if he asked you. He never asked you. How dare he say that we're doing that? It turns out we're training them, and we were giving them logistic support to shoot down missiles. Why are we not supporting Lebanon? Lebanon was invaded. Mm-hmm. You know, we everybody in the government says, "Oh, we need to support Ukraine because they were invaded." Okay, I disagree with the context and everything else, but wait a minute. Lebanon was invaded, so why are you no back in Lebanon? It just pisses me off, David. The hypocrisy is rancid, absolutely rancid.
It is, and there's a feeling of uselessness. So see, when you hear people like yourself, David, and you think, well, definitely, I would back that. I would back your charity because I know that you're on the right side of history here. And also, Laji Celtic, what I found brilliant was they hooked up with the Green Brigade, but they also hooked up with Primal Screen, and they released that football top. And, you know, Bobby, I think Bobby's politics, we've spoken about Bobby and his dad, who you knew, are fantastic. Could you just tell us, for anybody watching, David, how they can support the charity?
Going to our website, spiritaid.org. We've got a great Facebook page. We're just about to start our Christmas campaign now, where I said we're about 15,000 kids. I think last year was 15,000 kids. They get a serious toy. They're not just stupid wee things. We get great support from lots of communities. As I said, the Celtic Foundation support us, Tesco support us in a big way as well. Lots of individuals do. But in any way at all, donate a toy, a new toy preferably, or donate money. Money's the best thing. And if you give us money, we don't take a penny off for administration. Yeah. We've got one person who gets paid expenses. He's our general manager, Pat Rolick, who organises all their deliveries and everything else. And we cover his expenses. Every single penny goes to the sharp end. I mean, I'm about to go to Malawi. We feed 2,000 kids a day in Malawi. And I've known Africa all my life because when I was about 5 or 6 in primary school, I saw a photograph of this thatched hut and brown people sitting outside round a wee fire. I says to my ma, I'm going there. She goes, what? I says, I want to go there. Mm-hmm. And 15 years later, I hitchhiked to Africa, for Glasgow.
Bloody hell.
All the way down through Europe, across the Mediterranean, North Africa, down the east, into the centre. And I've always had a lifelong love affair with that continent. And so in Malawi, it's a community of 15,000 people, 10 different villages. Each village has got a chief. 6 of them are women. Yes. And I sat down and I said, how can Spirit Aid, in partnership with you, improve your human and natural resources? They're just illiterate peasant farmers. They grow their maize. If the rains come, they can feed their kids. If the rains don't come, they starve. So I said, how can we improve it? They said, feed our high school kids. Because in Africa, high school is not compulsory and you've got to pay about 10, 15 quid a term. It's a barter economy. They don't have readies. And the teenage kids go and work at the tea and coffee plantations for slave labour wages. It's a life of slavery. It's horrific. So we started to feed them a lunch of maize and beans and vegetables in the high school. When we started it, the school roll was about 240. Within 3 weeks, it went up to 450. The pass marks were 3%. The pass marks are now 95%. And it's one of the top 3 achieving schools in Malawi, and it's a bush school, stuck in the middle of nowhere. Nobody gives a shit about it. Even the Minister of Education came down to see what this remarkable rise in the exam results were. And he said, oh, they're feeding them lunch. It's a no-brainer. If we feed our kids, the brains will work.
That's incredible. What a result.
We get 10 creches. All the preschool kids got a bowl of porridge, a preschool education. Got women's training workshops, training women in sewing and knitting. We bought an extension to the school. And people dismiss Africa, but I've always seen great potential. That's why I thought I want to prove you can create a centre of excellence in the middle of the African bush. Our graduates, we've got about 3 dozen teachers. We've got midwives. We've got nurses. We've got police and army officers. We've got accountants. We've got a whole list of all these kids. They never had a hope before. Now they're getting genuinely employed. They're going out into the world, earning money, bringing it back into the community. So now they've got electricity. Now they've got running water.
You know, going hitchhiking at that age, setting up the charity and seeing it through. Where do you get that drive from, David? Because you do now and again feature in TV, theatre and film. Where do you get
I'm
that
astounded,
drive?
David.
Incredible.
I'm astounded. But before the show, looking through your back record,
Yeah.
I say to myself,
The filmography.
76, Merle at 146. How the hell do you fit all this in, mate? You've got an incredible amount of work that you've done, and you're doing all this other work. So where do you get the time?
As you said earlier, the world's going to hell in a banana skin faster than we can blink. It's incumbent in every single one of us to pull our fingers out and make a difference. Whether that's to your next door neighbour, whether it's to the youth club, whether it's an old age pensioner, whether you want to do it, countrywide or internationally like I do, everybody's got to do something. We can't sit in our arse and go, oh, this world's terrible. Oh, it's going to hell in a banana skin. What are our kids and grandkids going to feel? There's a brilliant Sioux Nation proverb. I love Native American philosophy. The Nakota Sioux say, we do not inherit the earth from our ancestors. We borrow it from our children.
Good.
I'm on my deathbed.
Yeah.
I get 3 sons and 4 grandkids. Well, there you go, guys. Sorry, it's a pile of shit. I was too busy watching Celtic. Too busy watching Strictly Come Dancing. That's
a great. That's a great proverb to live your life by.
And what you've done, David, is you've proved that you can watch Celtic and be active, because that's the beauty of you as an individual.
Well, I only get to about 3 or 4 games a year, but anyway.
Yeah, but you love them.
I know.
You
Of
love them.
course.
And to be honest, you asked her where he gets it from. You obviously get it from your mum. Because you've just described a woman who was saintly and had a heart of
saintly. I rarely use it to me. Yeah, she was
saintly. Obviously, you've taken that for her. Because you've got that passion. I've had the pleasure of knowing Davey on and off 20 odd years, and I've just loved the guy. He's always warm. He's always helpful. There's a term called human solidarity. He sums up human solidarity because he's always friendly towards people, and I love his passion for good causes. You know, he wants to change things and make life better, and so you're just an inspiration, mate.
Thank you, Tommy. But why be an arsehole? I want to say to people, why you're doing daft things. Why be an arsehole? Be an angel. Yeah. I want t-shirts saying, be an angel, change the world.
And yet, typecast.
It comes to a role.
Joey, when you're born with a face like mine, you don't get the romantic leads. I don't think I've ever had a snog on screen. I've had a snog on screen.
No, a trial and retribution. I'm quite sure
I
you've
did
done
one
quite a few
snog.
snogs. The famous Mike. But in terms of your career, David, this whole idea about I think you moved to the drum when you were 6. You were born in Brigton. You moved to the drum.
Well, born in Rodno Hospital, and I spent the first 2 years of my life on my granny's sofa in Rockhow. Then when I was 2, we moved to a room and kitchen in Dalmarnock Road, Stones Throw to Celtic Park, and then at 6 we went to
the drum. And then you get a job in the yards, is it?
No, my dad was an electrician in a steel yard at Glasgow Steel Roofing Company in Portsall.
Right.
So I was kicked out of school at 15 because I was a daydreamer. I was out looking out the window, fantasising, daydreaming. Not about dreaming about being an actor, just living other lives and being a cowboy, being an Indian, being a bank robber. And so they kicked me out at 15. My ma took me back, pleading with the Heady. The tears were running down her face. I was sitting beside her, really embarrassed, saying, please take my son back, he's a nice boy. So out of sympathy, the Heady said, OK, we'll take him back. So I went back for another year. At the end of it, I sat 5 O-levels and failed them all. I got a rejection slip. Now, at this time, before the rejection slip arrived, I was hitchhiking around Scotland. I packed a wee bag that I got for Paddy's Market, and I was away up the Highlands, discovering the beauty of my own country. I come back, my dad goes, you got to start Monday. I says, what do you mean? You got to start Monday, son, we need the money. So I started off as an apprentice template maker. I was getting £2.7 and ninepence a week. What's that nowadays? Nothing. And I saw all these men who were wage slaves, were ruining their lives, wasting their lives and all that, but making a living to feed their families and all the rest. And then 2 years later, I walked up the steps of the Royal Scottish Academy of Music and Drama in my boiler suit, covered in engineering grease and iron filings, burst through the registrar's door, and a voice says, I want to be an actor. I thought, who the said that? There was only me in this registrar. Must have been me, and it was me.
But what?
I don't know, man.
What motivated you to climb these stairs with a model suit on that you want to be an actor?
It was my subconscious.
Did you like films or something? Did you, was there something that inspired?
My man, dad always, no matter how little money they had, they always took us to pantomime every year.
Right, okay.
So pantomime gave me my love of theatre, going, wow, this is what you can do for a living. Mm-hmm. You can create magic. You can take people on a journey. And I vividly remember, so at the Alhambra, Dick Whittington on ice.
Right.
On skates, Dick, with the longest legs in the world, wearing fishnets, a pair of tits, and I'm thinking, talk about gender confusion. I was and I ended up playing Dame in the pantomime. I mean, if you're playing Dame in the pantomime, you're a truck driver with a false pair of tits and a wig. And big boots.
Did you play?
I played Mother Goose. I played several dames. Not mad. But that.
At what age were you at this time then, David? Are you like 20, 21 when you go?
Well, I went to drama. I came out of drama school. I went at 17. I came out at 20.
So you're only 17 when you climb these steps? When you actually...
16 and a half or 6. No, I was 17.
And you're not coming from a background of acting, so it must have been something where you feel, should I be here?
Yeah. And I didn't tell my folks. Eventually I did tell them. And my ma was, as a loving person, she was always supportive. My dad smacked me about a bit. I mean, you're a man. I wasn't following his role model.
Okay.
He was a hard-working, hard-drinking Glaswegian man. He worked 6.5 days a week and 3 nights overtime just to provide for us. So in a sense, I was saying to him, I'm rejecting what you've given me. Mm-hmm. And that didn't sit well with him. And it took him years. I mean, I was at the Sits for 10 years playing Hamlet, Lady Macbeth, Troilus, Nijinsky, all these great classical leads.
Wait a minute, Dave, I was at the Sits playing Hamlet. I mean, you're getting the background all of a sudden, and by the way, by all the reviews that I've read, you played it very, very well as well. I mean, everything you read is, how wonderful you were at. How did you just make that leap, David? I mean, you must have an inherent talent that somebody brought out.
I was crippled by shyness, Tommy.
Shyness, right? Okay.
Shyness. Always was, as a kid, really crippled with shyness. maybe it's a way of overcoming that. I mean, a lot of actors will admit, they say, I'm actually shy. People go, wait, you get up on stage and you can do anything. Completely different ball game. But it was my unconscious. I was meant to be an actor.
Okay.
And I didn't realise it because there were no opportunities for me at that age. Also, this was in the 60s. You didn't have very many working class actors. That was a middle class and upper middle class profession. It's for those and the likes of those who had the money to be able to,
This is what I suppose this is what I'm getting at, Davey. You're coming from such a hard, recognisable working class background. I go up to the conservatoire. It's a beautiful building and all the rest of it. But you do feel a wee bit, la-di-da. You've walked in the boiler suit because you've something inside you saying, I'm going to do this. I just find that remarkable. It's brilliant.
I find it remarkable as well, Tommy, and I can't explain it.
Great.
When I tell people that, they go, he's a wanker. I said, Jimmy, I walked up the steps to the road, and I had to get a bus with Postle into town, change buses to go out to the drum. I got the bus into town, didn't get the drum bus, walked down Buchanan Street, walked up the steps.
Brilliant bowling. We're in the heart of the Barras here. I used to love it in my younger days for gigs, of course, and going to the Bairds and all that kind of stuff. But I was always intrigued with Bible John, whose victims were picked up in the Barrowlands, and you presented a documentary on that, didn't you?
Aye.
It's an incredible tale, isn't it?
Horrible tale.
Aye.
Horrible tale.
Yeah.
They were the bad old days, though. And it all happened, they picked them up in Barrowland, didn't he?
Yeah.
Most of them picked him in Barrowland.
Yeah. Yeah. So see, when you're doing something like that, do you get invested? Do you do your own research? And
Aye, you've got
a story like that, David?
You've got to. I'll tell you a story. Remember the guy that he worked in a church, St. Peter's at Charing Cross, and they murdered the young lassie,
Tobin.
Angelica Klug. She was a Polish student. She was working in the church.
Peter Tobin?
Peter Tobin.
Yeah.
Right, so the Dalai Lama is coming to Glasgow. So the Buddhists came to me at Spirit Aid to say, look, we want to put on a show for the Dalai Lama coming, can you help? What happened was these lovely peaceful Buddhists spent all their time infighting and backbiting and bitching and all. And we thought, where you go, do your own efforts. But me and my colleague at the time, Fiona, went up to the church to talk to the priest to say, look, can we put something on for the Dalai Lama? A wee guy comes through the door and he says, do you want a cup of tea and some biscuits? We went, lovely, comes through, puts a plate of biscuits, cup of tea. Then I saw him outside in the garden having a fag. I said, excuse me, Father, I went and had a fag with him. He says, do you mind if I say something? I said, you want to go? He said, you play hard men. You play evil really, really well. I said, well, thanks. I said, I don't do very much. That's it. Peter Tobin.
No way, David.
Peter Tobin.
In the presence of evil.
In the presence of evil.
Foul.
He was a wee acid-faced guy. His face looked cancerous, that kind of grey. People look drawn, nasty, tight. And he's going, I can tell you the evil really well. There was just something about him.
Did you get a bad energy off of him, a bad vibe off of him as well?
Kind of bounce off him. Just.
That's horrendous. When you're playing a particular character who hasn't been created on the page, Jimmy Boyle, for example, how do you research for a role like that, David?
Well, I'd known Jimmy for 7 years before I played him on screen. I was an official visitor to the special unit. I was taking arts therapy up there. I would take rehearsals in there. I would do improvisations for and with the prisoners. They'd been incarcerated in cells, covered in their own shit, in cages for, years. Jimmy was in solitary confinement for 2 years against every single humanitarian law anywhere in Europe, if not the world. And so they'd forgotten how to converse with people, how to have a conversation. So it's just really, how do you chat a lassie up in a bar? How do you have a conversation in a pub with another guy over a pint and stuff? But so I'd known him for all those years and found it to be an extraordinary, creative and driven individual. Him and Ken Murray, the chief nursing officer, were the two that drove that unit. And it was a huge success. They took half a dozen of the most violent criminals in Scotland and got the best out of them. Brought out their humanity.
Tapped into abilities that they probably didn't even know they
Jimmy
had.
was given a lump of clay. He thought, what did I do with this? In fact, he even did a bust of me somewhere it's in a cupboard somewhere.
Was there because you played it so well though, was there a risk of you being typecast as being the hard man?
I mean, as I said, my 10 years at the Sits, I've never seen a camera, and I was playing Hamlet and Lady Macbeth and Troy Listinsky, Mother Goose, all these, a great range of parts. The minute you do something on telly, they put you in a pigeonhole. HAYMAN, hard man, Glaswegian, drunk, nasty piece of work. So I spent years turning down parts. That's when I began to focus on my directing, because I was getting no satisfaction from the acting, because I thought, they're typecasting. It's the same thing all the time. Television and film typecasting. It makes their job easier. They don't have to direct you.
Yeah, it's lazy, isn't it?
Aye, it's lazy. It's lazy thinking. Right, there's HAYMAN. He'll take care of himself. I'll concentrate on something else.
What I like though is you didn't just go with that, did you? You kind of rebelled against it and turned away the work rather than just take the roles.
Aye, I didn't begin to direct on stage. When I ended up directing, the guy you met in Prague, Martin Sheen.
No way.
The wonderful American actor. I directed him a play called The Normal Heart, which was the first play about AIDS ever written. It was about the bathhouses in New York when all the gay guys were falling for this weird disease that was just killing them off. So a really powerful play. It had already been done in New York and then in LA, and I was doing the first production in London. And it was Marty. Now, Marty had been on stage once in his life before. And I said, look, I want to meet him. So I was in Los Angeles filming Sid and Nancy, the Sex Pistols movie where I was Malcolm McLaren. And I get the call, Marty wants to see you, so drive over to the valley, he's shooting somewhere, blah, blah, blah. So I drive onto this set, and there's the chuck wagon there with all the food out and everything else. I talked to a wee assistant, I said, I'm here to meet Marty. He said, see that door over there? And about 5 minutes to walk out that door and just go over and say hello. So I went over and I picked up a banana with the chuck wagon. I'm standing there and think, the door's opening. Oh, I'm hiding, right? I'm hiding. I see the door open. I thought, that's Marty Sheen. I'm eating my banana. And he turned around and looked at me. I thought, spotted, right? He seen me. So I walked to him, because, Marty, I'm David HAYMAN. I'm going to be your director when you come to London. We disappeared into his trailer. Both of us chain smoked for about 2 hours, and the whole of the 2 hours was taken up with me trying to convince him. This is it, right? It's the story of a gay relationship, and one of them dies of AIDS. There's about 4 kisses in the play. And he sat there and goes, no kissing. I goes, Marty, you can't convince the world, your audience, as a gay man, unless you kiss. No kissing. I managed to compromise. He agreed to do 1 kiss, right? Cut 2 rehearsals in London a couple of months later, or whatever else, and I'd cast Paul Jesson, a lovely English actor, as his lover. And whenever he went to kiss, excuse me, Tommy, I'm going to manhandle you, he would go, I said, Marty, that's not a kiss, that's how he's snuggling into your neck. You're not going to convince anybody. And he still went on to do it. So I went, right, Marty, stand aside. I grabbed Paul Jesson and went, boom, great Paul. I can snog them with tongues. And I said, there you go. I'm still here. The world that hasn't opened up and swallowed me. I'm still a heterosexual man. Kiss him. From then on, every single day was a male cast with 1 woman in it. He kissed every single man that came into rehearsals every morning. Changed Marty's life. Wonderful man.
What a story.
And I'm the only guy that's no male.
Oh, they shook hands. You showed them how he kiss.
I told him how to kiss another man.
Brilliant, David.
And even what's great was during breaks and rehearsals, he'd go up to the theatre office and call the White House. And it was Reagan who was in charge at the time, all about the Vietnam War. Ronnie, what the f*** are you doing? Run. He'd scream and shout at Ronnie Reagan and slam the phone down on him.
Because they'd have known him for acting probably as well, because Reagan was an actor, of course, wasn't he? So,
after a fashion. No harder for acting, Tommy. There's acting and there's acting.
Can we speak a little bit about this shared love that we've got for Glasgow Celtic? We've all got our different tales about it. You know, there just seems
to be
different one. How did that enter your life? How did Celtic enter your life?
Right, I was born into a very seriously lapped Proddy family, right? All blue noses, apart from my dad, who hated sectarianism and bigotry, and he was a resolute Thistle supporter. He said to me and my brother, guys, you support whatever team you want. I'm not choosing sides, I just can't bear all that shit goes on. So, where did we go for? We go for the best team in Scotland. So we started to support Celtic, and this was in the days, I was about 12 when I saw my first, my dad would take us to, Thistle matches and when Celtic came and played and all, it was great. But I'm probably 12 when I went to Celtic Park for the first time. Lifted over the barriers, of course. And this was in the early days of Jock Stein and the build up to the Lisbon Lions, whatever it was, 7 years later. And so I grew up, they were my heroes. I remember, I met Jinky jinky. They were launching the website. It was done by Parliament. Pat Rowling, and he invited me along to Parkhead. So we're launching the Lisbon Lions website. It was, and I met Big Billy, and I met a couple of others, but there was a wee jinky in the corner. I thought, I'm making a beeline to that wee guy. As I walked over to him, he stood up, all his height, he's 5'0". He goes, the best actor in Scotland.
We're all in, David.
And I went, the best football player in Scotland. And we gave each other a big hug. And we became kind of pals, because I went up and saw him a couple of times at his house at the end when he had his motor neuron. And it was such a shame. A man who had the gift of the gods at his feet. He would use his feet to say, go on, Dave, have a cup of tea, have a biscuit. You know, he couldn't even move, and you think, such a tragedy.
But what a tribute for you.
Oh, I died.
I mean, that's died and gone to heaven.
I died and went to heaven. Yeah, I'm still there, Tommy.
But I would.
See, when you grow up and your heroes, they continue to be your heroes, how does it feel, David, when Celtic ask you to come in and maybe do some work for the club, like the Billy McNeil story, for example, when you get involved in that? It must be like a kid in a sweet shop for you. Get involved with Celtic work.
Oh no, it's fab. I've done voiceovers for a few of their DVDs and stuff over the years. They don't pay very much. I think it's a fish's arse, as we know. But no, I'm really proud when they ask me to do stuff like that. It's great.
And what about even last night? I know Tommy's already mentioned this. If you watch Celtic playing Dortmund in the Champions League, and it's this big spectacle, and there's the fans, and they're flying those flags. And it's causes that are close
flags
to you.
Flags of Palestine, now flags of Lebanon have been added. No, it fills your heart with pride. Mm-hmm. There are only two left-wing ultras in Europe, aren't there? Football ultras in Europe. And we're one of them.
Yeah, exactly. And to the point, actually, where I always felt there was a similar state of mind politically with St. Pauli, as did many Celtic fans. But that's broken. That's now broken, that friendship.
Has it?
As a result of the Israeli-Palestine situation.
Okay. That's interesting.
Yeah. Now, can you indulge me for a moment on a couple of my favourite things that you've done, right? And I know that people...
I know one of the things you're going to say.
The first one, kind of growing up in the 90s, if you like, I loved Twin Town. I loved that movie, right? And there was a wee story about Dougray Scott, who was also in it. He was a hippie.
He was the star here.
He was a star. He was brilliant in it. There's a scene where he's watching Serpico on the telly. I just love the film. But he was told that his part was going to be a right horrible so-and-so. I'm not going to swear. And therefore, to appeal to his football team, you're going to wear a Jambos jersey, you're going to wear a Hearts top. He goes, no, if he's really that bad, I'm going to wear a Rangers top. So he's walking about with this big Rangers top. What a film that was. It was a great...
It was anarchic.
Yeah. And
it was like the Welsh train spotting, wasn't it?
Absolutely. Yes.
It really came from left field.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
With Rhys Ifans as well. Is that one of the films that people ask you about a lot? Is that the one where they shout over the street a line from the movie?
No.
Is that more of an indie left kind of field one?
It's mainly Jimmy Boyle and A Sense of Freedom, or with the younger generation, it's my guest starring role in Still Game, where I played Vince, the poisoner of Clydeside, where I poisoned a shipyard full of workers, didn't I?
You got me caravans.
I think caravans.
Burgers or something.
I think it was burgers, and I've got cockroaches crawling over my face and all that stuff. It's that. I've done about 60 movies. I was a TV star for 10 years, and they go, oh, Still Game.
It's great that you can appeal to other audiences by appearing in things like Still Game, though, isn't it?
Aye.
And you know, I was looking at that. We spoke last week about comedy in Scotland and how phenomenally talented the comedians are. You've appeared in Still Game, and am I right in saying also Scotch and Rye and Rab C. Nisbet? So there's 3 iconic TV shows, and you've been in all 3 of them.
Aye. I did the first series of Scotch and Rye, but I'll probably lose a few fans here. But Ricky Fulton was such an arsehole, I refused to do the second series, so Gregor Fisher took over, and the rest is history.
Aye.
Actually, I'm not going to work with that guy. I know he was an arsehole.
Well,
nasty piece of work.
A lot of people I know who worked with him said he was very difficult to work with as well, so I don't think you're the only one that has got that attitude. But here's something I want to ask you, David. In terms of, I think I've already had a chat with you before at a birthday party or something about the Linda LaPlante series, Trial and Retribution, because it went on for so long.
Yeah.
Gail and I, my wife and I, love the series, but your role in it, you were just immense. I mean, watching that, you were such a realistic character. And then I know it's not realistic, but you played it so well, David, in terms of Mike and the role of Mike. And you weren't, you never allowed yourself to be typecast because you weren't a drunk and you weren't violent. You were quite sensitive. You played that so well. And I think you says to me that in terms of Linda LaPlante with you, she was quite impressed and loved the way you portrayed the character.
She gave me complete freedom. We did 24 films over 10 years, and she would be lots of different directors. She would say to each director that came in, give HAYMAN his head, I trust him, let him do whatever he wants to do.
Brilliant.
So I brought in the sensitive side to him. Because when I read the first scripts, it was, where were you? Wednesday the 12th at 6:30 in the evening. No, what can you do with that? Nothing. So you've got to eke out wee bits of humanity within him, how he's got a sensitivity towards, not just to the victims, as well as the perpetrators of the crime, and see beyond face value. I enjoyed playing him, but in grim subject. You're dealing with murder, brutal murders every week. No, a lot of laughs.
Okay.
But I loved doing it, and I loved all the splits.
Well, here's another question then, because it's important. For us, you're like that, you've got such a massive catalogue. You know, you pick one thing, you're missing out such and such.
Yeah.
You as an actor, do you have a favourite? I mean, is there a role that you've played that was your favourite?
I did something earlier this year that's one of my favourites. I did a play, started off at the Tron last year, called Cypress Avenue, written by David Ireland, which is a brilliant, brilliant piece of writing. I play a Northern Irish prod, dyed in the wool, unionist. He feels his whole world is collapsing round about him. The power base in Northern Ireland is changing because the demographic is changing, now more Catholics than Proddies. So the whole power base is switching. He feels his life is over, it's crumbling before his eyes, and he has a mental breakdown. He's convinced his 6-week-old baby granddaughter is Jerry Adams in disguise. Now, it's theatre of the absurd. Seriously, theatre of the absurd. But it is a brilliant, brilliant play. You laugh yourself silly in the first 20 minutes, and by the end, it's like a King Lear. I mean, everybody else is dead apart from him. It's an extraordinary piece of work. We did it again at the Pavilion, and we packed out, and to have 1,000 people on their feet at the end of every night in a really difficult play. It's no easy.
Brilliant.
It's no an easy play.
Well, you talk about no easy. Here's a wee memory lane for you, right? 2010, you had a hard audience as well, because you come into the Bar L and you did your one-man show with a coffin, and your dad's in the coffin, and you were absolutely, you had the, you had a
captive audience.
A captive audience, right? But everybody applauded, there was genuine applause, warmth was there.
The prisoners to identify with Tommy.
Brilliant. You were
great.
He'd
been through that broken home, that abusive, brutal father of his that he spoke about. So there's so much in common, that that deprivation of the man had grown up with. It's just me in a coffin. But
he made me so proud that night, because he came in, and after he'd done his performance, which was exemplary, brilliant, he then says, "Is Tommy here? Where's Tommy?" And he shouted me out, and so it was fantastic among the other prisoners that, David HAYMAN knows him, that's great. So
Did you know each other prior to that, Tommy?
Yes, yeah. I'm trying to remember.
The thing we campaigned, the poll tax campaign. I think we met during the poll tax campaign.
David,
we've shared many a platform.
David's, I mean, a lot of actors have views but don't do anything about it.
Yeah.
He has the courage to actually do something about his views, and that's why I've always loved and admired them, because others hide their light under a bushel, but he uses his ability to communicate ideas. So he was very opposed to the poll tax. He supported the campaign. He's been very supportive of the independence campaign. He wants an independent Scotland. He wants a better Scotland, a fairer Scotland, but an independent Scotland. And he wasn't frightened to.
Don't want anything to do with Westminster. Nothing to do with Westminster.
And I just love that about him. He's fantastic.
It's a fearless attitude, because a lot of people might be scared that the work will dry. Chris Christopherson spoke about that.
Yeah.
Just obviously prior to this week's sad news that he died, the video footage was getting replayed. I'm going to ask you a wee question about crowds, because you've done so much stage work. Are Scottish or Glasgow crowds the hardest to please, but if you do please them, the most rapturous at the end of it? And is it the same for football, do you think?
Oh, wow. Yeah, you're probably right. Glaswegian audiences are certainly the toughest. But by God, if you get them, if you hit the mark, they come back 100-fold. Because if I'm on stage, what you're doing as an actor, you're giving out the energy of your performance, and your energy goes out in waves. When they sit there like this, better be good. It's Saturday, weekend's halfway through, for fuck's sake. They'll be shopping all day, and it's been happening till this better be good. And nothing comes back. So it's like, boom, just like a brick wall. That's when you seriously have to work hard. It's like stirring a cold pot of porridge into life, the next morning. If you go on and they respond to your energies going out from them, their energies come back in waves. So when you've got like 1,000, 1,200 people in the pavilion, you've got the waves of their energy, their appreciation, their enjoyment coming at you. You ride those waves. Mm-hmm. That lifts me as a performer. You get lifted onto a higher level when you've got that interaction with the audience that's going well. No, it's magic. And just like football. That's why I love the Green Brigade.
No, definitely. Massive respect for them. I mean, we're in the heart of the Barras, and the amount of gigs I went to at the Barrowlands where bands from all over the world would say that about a Glasgow audience. You're the best audience in the world. And sometimes you were standing there thinking, they're just playing to the crowd here, but so many people say that. Can I ask you about one final film? I'm a big Peaky Blinders fan, which is why I use this wee book here. And on the follow-up to that, I watched Taboo, which I thought was sensational.
Wasn't it?
It was amazing. Is there any plans for a second season of that?
They wrote a second series, but because the first one, Stephen Knight wrote it, because the first one didn't make any money.
Right.
It cost, what did it cost? £2 million an hour for the BBC? Because everything went on screen. We built, London docks in the period and everything else. That house that Tom Hardy and I lived in was built inside a studio, right? Could cost staircase and chandeliers and all the rest of it. Tom Hardy put some of his own money into it. It was part funded by SFX channel in America. This one got about 3 million subscribers or something, and didn't make its money back.
It's amazing.
Such a shame. It was Downton Abbey, up to their ass in mud and glore and corruption. I can't stand period folk with posh folk in frocks.
Tommy, you've got to watch it. I know you've no.
No, I've watched the book. He was fantastic.
Oh, it was amazing.
It was Kira, and I'm partly with.
We're related.
David's son, and David
his
as well.
niece is the partner of my eldest son, and they've got 2 kids.
Oh, right.
So
I thought you were talking like in Fife, we're all related. We try and figure out, right, how are we connected here in Fife when you start a new job?
Kira and his son David, his son David's, he's also very artistic and very talented, directing.
He directs River City.
But he fancies a wee game of poker. So
right.
David's son and I play poker quite regularly. So in fact, I've got a sadly report that he won the last game.
Did he?
He actually won the last. So I'm very disappointed in him because he took all the money. He came out of my sister's house, and there's always pennies playing on a table like this.
Listen, you also did some poker games to raise money for Spirit.
That's right. Yep, that's
you need
right.
to reinstate them, Tommy.
Do you know what? I'll tell you this. I was on the riverboat at an event just 2 weekends ago, or last weekend, and spoke to the guy that runs it, and he's very, very friendly. And he said to me, I remember meeting you at the time, he said, the Spirited poker game, it's an easy way to make money.
I know it is.
It's very easy. I'm going to take it on. Me and David will get that done. Definitely.
And also, Acsom, we'll support what you're doing because it's phenomenal work. And all the links will be shared underneath this video.
I come from a family of prodigies. My granda, Watty, was a windy cleaner, and he cleaned the windies at Rockhill Hospital. And because there's thousands of windies, in New Year, we start at one end and go all the way around the whole hospital. It took him a whole year to go around all the windies. Anyway, a wee blue nose. One hugged me, nay, we're up there, we're all singing songs, and me and my brother stood up and sang Wild Rover, an innocent folk song. You know, I've been a Wild Rover for many a year, all the rest of it. My granddad thought it was an IRA recruiting song. He went red for the neck up, steam came out his ears, and he's a wee guy. I mean, the older I get, the more I look like him, the more I shrink. The more I look, my ears get bigger, my nose gets bigger. I get to look like Watty. And he banned us from his house for 2 years.
Seriously?
We couldn't go into my granny's house for 2 years if he was there.
How did you get back in? Did you have to apologise?
My granny eventually killed him. They were having a fight. And he has a heart attack and dies. And she phones up my dad and goes, Dave, you better come out. I think I've killed Watty. Sure enough, Watty was lying dead on the floor. There you go.
You go back in the house.
This can become a new drama.
I know.
I've said earlier, right, well, been through the darkness of an embarrassing result, David. You're the old statesman here, so you've been through more bad results than any of us. Although you also lived through some of the glory years. What was your take on getting beat with Dortmund?
Disaster. Complete disaster. But what I didn't like about it was, before we went, we had won the game. From the players, from Brendan, from the fans, from the media, they all said, hey, we can get something out of this game. Because we'd beat St Johnstone 5-0 and we fought 5-1 against, our first European game. We were flying high. It's like the English team have won the World Cup before they even got on a plane. That's what it was like. And I thought, guys, this is a mistake. We can't go there with that expectation because we're going to be shattered. We just went in there in the night. No.
We didn't.
A lot of them just didn't turn up. Sure, we lost Carter Vickers. Schmeichel had a terrible game. But nobody was really there. They didn't really play as a team. I think they were shattered. They were knocked back early on.
Yeah, Paul John's
stuffing it.
opinions. It's about opinions because Paul John does his daily bulletin show, and obviously people are always arguing about this player, that player. I've got to say, for instance, although we lost 7 goals last night, our star man, in my opinion, was Liam Scales. He was one of the most underrated players in the team. I thought he had a great game last night. I also thought Hatate, when he came on, and the boy Val at the left back, I thought they two, their second half performances were excellent. Too late, Davey. It's 5-1 by the time they come on, so it's too late. But what I liked about the wee Hatate fella is he actually held the ball, took on a couple of the players and played a couple of telling passes, not across the way, but actual forward passes. So
I was cutting through the lines.
It was cutting through the lines.
Yeah.
It was cutting through the lines. From my point of view, Brendan has got his style of play. I love him to bits. He's an elite manager. There is no doubt about it.
And he gets the best out of his players.
But in terms of the European performances, if I'm not mistaken, John Poyne, you've used a stat in the past about the number of big defeats that we've had, and that Brendan has been in charge during quite a few of them, if not half of them. And therefore, I do think that when it comes to these big games away from home, let's change the formation.
Too cavalier. Yeah.
How did he do with the European games when he was manager at Liverpool or Leicester?
He did all right. He did all right at Leicester.
Did he?
Yeah, he got to the semis of the Conference League where Mourinho's Roma knocked him out.
Right, okay.
And I thought coming back to Celtic, David, he would have a pragmatic approach. Maybe play with 5 in the midfield, play with 1 up top away from home in Dortmund. But no, we just played with 3 up top. We played the same way that we did against St Johnstone. But the opponent was a different level and they just picked us apart.
Men against boys.
It was.
There's a case for, and I mean, obviously we all have our disagreements, but there is definitely a case. Neil Lennon was commentating last night and he was talking about Martin O'Neill and how Martin O'Neill set up.
Yep.
And then Martin O'Neill set up with 3-5-2. That 5 across the middle is, I think, important when you go away in Europe because the midfield's where games are won and lost. Last night, personally, I thought the boys at Brandt, I think his name was, he ran the show for the first half. We're 5-1 down.
Yeah.
Right?
Game over.
Game's over. Game's over. They took it easier in the second half. They only scored 2. They could have scored more. surely the idea about going away from home is get 3 guys that are solid to play at the back, get 5 across the middle, and then, you know, a bit of pace up front so that you've got an out ball.
Yeah.
I just think we've got to, when we go to Atlanta, please, let's adapt.
We need to change that approach. You mentioned Lenny. Here's one maybe controversial, Tommy. I think we should get. He was talking about coming back to Celtic at some stage.
Lenny was.
Aye, just during the week there.
Was he?
And I think.
In what capacity?
Well, he never mentioned, but I'm going to throw it out there. I think recruitment. You think of the players that Neil Lennon brought to Celtic, from Wanyama to Van Dijk, Charlie Mulgrew, Joe Ledley. Great players, Fraser Forster. I think he's got Tommy Rogic. He's got an eye for a player, isn't he? Mm-hmm. And I think recruitment is something that you take away from the manager now. Let him coach the team and you supply that talent. I think Lenny would be good for that.
What he was getting asked, David, it was I seen it in the BBC, I don't know if it was anywhere else, but he was getting asked, would he be interested in taking a role back at Celtic? And it was a very pragmatic answer. He said,
any other role than
any other role, mind. And he said, of course he would consider anything because he loves the club, and a lot of people, you know, overlook that fact. He loves the club, so yes.
Can he deny his love for the club?
Can he deny it? I can't deny it. But I think what Paul John's saying there, Davey, the guy has got, in my opinion, an eye for players, and he's got so much accumulated experience, the playing experience he's got. Because when he was doing his commentating last night, his punditry last night, he was bringing in the example of Leicester in the Premier League and how they had to play against the Chelseas and the Liverpools, and how, in terms of us playing in Europe, there's a similarity there because we're going up against better players, better teams. How do you play to actually get something out of it? And sometimes, I mean, I love Brendan's confidence. Brendan's confidence is we play our style, we stick to our style. Great, but see if it's not working. You know, I think Lennon was very philosophical last night. He was actually making the quote. He said, I think the definition of madness is to do the same thing over and over and expect a different result. So we have got to adapt it, Davey, I think.
Yeah. Try and nullify them rather than go toe-to-toe, because they'll beat you.
They can't go toe-to-toe, can they?
No. Another player, Frimpong, unknown for Man City, Lenny is the guy that brought him in. So that's my take on Neil Lennon. We're very disappointed, David, but you've seen the glory days, so you can think back to them. Can I just say it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you. Thanks for joining us on Celtic State.
My pleasure, guys. Thank you very much for inviting me.
Brilliant, brother. Brilliant.
Thanks for joining us again on A Celtic State of Mind. Join us next Friday for another episode of This is Acsom.